Back again with head coach Sean Kiracofe, the Sean Kiracofe Show. The intros get more and more,
Yes.
exuberant as the season goes on.
As they
right?
should.
Yeah. But welcome back. Going to talk some women's volleyball, Lady Demon volleyball. Coach, couple quick thoughts about this past weekend. We talked about last week. Knew that it was going to be a challenging weekend ahead of us, but certainly some good things I think we saw. Notably from the Coastal match and the Ole Miss matches, where we came back, won those third sets in both of those, and really played some good volleyball in those two matches specifically, in those sets even more specifically.
Yeah, tough weekend, but I was happy with those two matches. I mean, they're tough, top to bottom. There's no weaknesses on those teams, so to be able to put something together and really make a run and take a set and to push them late into a few other sets was something that was good to see. And now it's just kind of like, be able to maintain that level, not just because you have to step up because of the team on the other side of the net, but just because that's what we do on a regular basis. That's the challenge here, that consistency.
Yeah, and that was my next question, that consistency. You talked about it after Ole Miss. What exactly do you mean by that? Is it specifically the passing, the setting, the hits, or the swings, the attacking? What's maybe the biggest part of that consistency that you're looking for, especially as we move into this week?
I mean, that's the great or the good and bad thing about volleyball is that, you can't just pick just one. It all kind of ties together. The better you are from a ball control standpoint, the easier it is to run your offense. The more aggressive you can be in system and out of system, then the easier balls you get back on your defense. It's just, everything is just so tied together. It's hard for me to put a finger on exactly one thing. Because if you go back to the Monroe match, it's just our ball control wasn't at the level of what we would expect, which made it harder for us to run the offense, which made it easier for them. Same thing, against, Coastal and Ole Miss. It's just at times different parts of the game were really good, so I don't know how to answer that question. Basically it comes down to one thing has to be consistent, and whether that's a few offensive players, whether that is our ball control, so that you can allow those setters to be able to give a good ball to the attackers, and the attackers can kind of ease their way into it. Something has to be consistent before other things can then become consistent. I will say that that in years past, and we've talked about this, it has always been our ball control and defense. It's always been rock solid, and it's been allowed our offensive players and attackers to then find that consistency. So, but it doesn't always have to be that way. We could have a great offense and we're scoring points, and then it allows that to allow our passers to kind of settle in.
Okay. So if one thing kind of falls into place, it kind of
it all starts to add together.
Wanted to also get your more expanded thoughts. We talked about it after, I believe after Ole Miss as well, the way that Simone and Bree really stepped up in that match, offensively for sure. Especially the third and fourth, or second and third and fourth sets, whatever they were, where they, I think one of those sets they had 8 kills and no errors, something like that. Something really, really good that you wanted to see. We talked about Simone a lot already, but just finding somebody that's going to step up in those positions. I know Simone's done that a few times, but having somebody else that can come in, maybe if not Bree, maybe it's somebody else, but just those options there.
Yeah, and my previous long rambling answer of not having an answer of what was consistent, we had a great showing from Bree this last weekend. On the weekend, off the top of my head, she hit right around 240 on the weekend, and then if you take the UTSA match out of it, she hit 280, which is it's interesting because in that position, the L2 position, you want that player to have a higher hitting percentage. But she is, from a physical standpoint, more of an L1, outside of just your gunner that is going to go out there and bomb away and score points for you. And because of that, you allow them to have a little bit of a lower hitting percentage because they're taking big swings no matter what. So for her to score the way she did and to have that high hitting percentage is really phenomenal. I mean, it really is a big deal, and there was consistency there. And I said it in the press release. After the Ole Miss match, I'm almost more proud of her bad situations, to where it's like, okay, you're not in a position to score, but you got to do something good with the ball, and that is coming along so much better. Of just you want those type of players, your L1 players, to think that every time they touch the ball they can score, but you gotta take that within reason, because you push too much in those situations and you give up hitting errors, and she didn't do that this weekend, which was phenomenal.
So moving into this week, another 4-match week for us, with Grambling on Wednesday, and then heading down to Lamar for the 3 matches this weekend. As we get closer and closer, only 2 tournament weekends left this year. Where's the growth been for you, even after a tough weekend, as we play matches that it's more on what we're expecting to see in the Southland Conference in terms of opponents?
For that very first weekend, first match against Tulane, obviously we showed what we were capable of doing, which was fantastic and way earlier than I expected. But I feel like even going into last weekend, there's still glimpses of what I want the team to play like, because it's not always that. We're a little, just there's a bunch of new faces out there, and we're just kind of still figuring out, who's taking this ball, who's doing that, and how I want transition offense to look like, how I want different situations to where if we struggle, or how we can isolate, certain attackers. That's all going to take some time, and I've said it before, of like, when we took that team down to New Orleans in 2017 and went 5 with Tulane, that group, just for the way that we were having people play early in their careers, they had really about a year and a half to kind of like fine tune what we wanted to look like. And this group has had a couple weeks, and so I'm most happy about glimpses of, all right, a play that works, but it worked exactly the way I wanted it to work, and people were moving the way I wanted them to move, and it's starting to show up more and more.
So all that to say, is that the focus of this week, is just seeing those instances more and more against the Grambling, against the Lamar, against the Little Rock, as we move through this week?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be matches to where we can show up and you can play exactly like you played for your high school team or your club team, and it doesn't necessarily fit in with our systems, and we're still going to be able to win, just because of physical talent. But we need to start being all on the same page, and so it looks the way we want it to on a consistent basis. So when we play tough teams that are not SEC 6-3 big teams, but good teams, that we know what we can rely on and we know what's going to work, and just to be able to be consistent, to say the word again, and just repetitive of just attacking people in a certain way, because we know if it doesn't work the first time, or if we have an unforced error, it's going to work the next 3, 4, 5 times. You just got to keep hammering away at it.
All right, Coach, appreciate your time as always, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, thanks.